Hello there, Mad Mike here, and welcome back to the channel. And today we are going to be doing a review of Zack Snyder's Justice League. Now, I sat down and watched this last night with a lot of the crew from the Ashtray, so we all kind of came to almost a universal consensus that we all really liked this movie. I think in terms of my rating, I think I gave it a 9.5 out of 10 after I did watch it, and I really enjoyed this film. This film is brutal. This film is a lot more serious than the theatrical cut. There's a lot less humor that's in it, and there's a lot more character development. But before we go into that, I just want to say that there will be some minor spoilers to the film in this review, just because I can't really talk about this movie without going into that. And when I say spoilers, even though the original came out in 2017, that was 4 years ago, there's a very small amount of that movie that's actually in this film. You can see a lot of the same scenes, but most of them have been doctored. They've had extra stuff added in, or they've had things removed, or they've had color changes and stuff like that. They haven't changed. They haven't changed what happens in the scenes, but they've changed a lot of the context and the extra stuff that is involved in those scenes. So, like I said, we're gonna get into minor spoilers. I'm gonna try and keep the major ones quiet because I know this just came out a couple days ago. But if you don't want any spoilers, then do not continue on in this video. Go watch the Snyder Cut and then come back. But now that we got that out of the way, let's dive into the actual movie. And I did see the theatrical cut in theaters, so I can compare and contrast to an extent, even though that was like 3 years ago now. And it's night and day. This movie is so much different than that. The opening is completely different. They took out that stupid homeless guy that was holding the sign that said "I tried." That was kind of shitty. I mean, Whedon just he butchered that movie anyway, but. There is one thing I would like to say, actually, before we get into this, is a lot of people are complaining about the runtime. The runtime is 4 hours and 2 minutes. That's with credits. And a majority of that is the actual movie. The credits are only, I think, like 10 minutes out of that, so you still have almost 4 hours of film. But here's the thing. I view this more as a miniseries than I do as a full theatrical film with the way that it's set up, because it's set up in segments. There's 6 segments plus an epilogue. So if you're watching this movie, you could just stop at a segment card and say, okay, I'm going to stop here and then I'm going to continue this later, like a television show or a miniseries. So people that are bitching that it's 4 hours long, you people are idiots. Now, moving forward from that, let's actually talk about how the movie looks. Now, the special effects for the film, and this is one of my only drawbacks, this is why I had to give it a 9.5, is that, among one other thing that I'll mention later, is that there are a couple of effect shots, and when I say that, I literally mean a couple of them, that look kind of hokey. There's one with Jesse Eisenberg at the very beginning where they're showing him in the Kryptonian ship from Batman v Superman, and then there's another one later on with Gal Gadot that look kind of hokey that we got a kick out of. But other than that, the effects for this are actually really good. Steppenwolf's suit looks awesome, and the other thing is the aesthetics for this movie. They changed a lot of the aesthetics, and for the better. The Steppenwolf design for this film is much better than the one for Justice League. It is much more intimidating. They changed his voice. They made it a lot more gravelly and monstery. Again, a lot more like what would be associated with somebody from the planet Apocalypse. Especially somebody who's related to Darkseid. They did a lot of those changes, and it works very well for the film. Because the original, like I said, the original Steppenwolf was not that intimidating. And the other thing is, this Steppenwolf backs it up. Because the other thing is, this movie is rated R. It is rated R for violence and some language, too. There's a few fucks that are in this movie, which, usually you can get away with one with a PG-13, but they have like 5 or 6 of them, which are sprinkled in appropriate areas. They don't overuse the profanity, which I like. They have that, which adds to the R rating, but the main thing for the R rating is the violence, and a lot of that comes from Steppenwolf. He has that energy axe. He cuts people in half in this movie, and it's awesome. He wrecks people. He rips through Amazons and Atlanteans like they're made out of paper. It's a great. The fight scenes in it are amazing. I think that the fight scenes, especially with the stuff that's been added to them, are really, 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 really good. And the choreography of the fight scenes is really good too. I liked the way that they kind of did all that. Um, but like I said, the effects, like I said, other than those couple of scenes, are really good. Let's go into the acting. Let's go into the individual characters now. So we'll start off with kind of the big one, which is Batman, and my favorite one, which is Batman. And they fixed Ben Affleck's Batman. They fixed it in this movie. They didn't make him a joke-a-minute snarky moron like he was in the theatrical cut. They didn't make him crack jokes and stuff like that. He wasn't doing that the whole movie. There were a couple of scenes like his banter back and forth with Alfred and stuff like that, but that's to be expected because Alfred knows him, so I understand that. Um, a lot of the scenes with him searching for the League and stuff, a lot of those scenes are similar, or the only one that I think that was almost entirely the same was his scene where he finds Barry Allen. That's basically about the same as it was in the theatrical cut. But other than that, there's a lot of stuff that's added and a lot of stuff that's kind of removed over time. And the stuff that's removed needed to be removed, and the stuff that's added should have been added. Because that's the other thing, is they give character development in this. Maybe not so much to Batman, but a lot to the other characters that were being introduced in this movie. And I like that about it. Ben Affleck's Batman as well is kind of he's the heart and soul. Well, not the heart and soul. That's more Cyborg, but he's the brain of the team. He's the guy who's trying to bring this together. Although they do have a few scenes where he's basically operating almost on faith because of the way the nightmares from Batman v Superman are affecting his brain. So that is kind of interesting. But I liked what they did with him. I like that they made him more serious. His entrance scene is actually really cool. I like that when he's on the GCPD roof his first entrance scene in the full costume. He's in the movie before that, obviously, but. Going down to Gal Gadot as Wonder Woman, Zack Snyder gave Wonder Woman back her balls. I'll say that because Wonder Woman 1984 definitely nerfed her, even before the plot line in that movie where she loses her powers or gets them nerfed. She still doesn't do a lot of the same stuff that we would associate with that type of superhero. Like the speed is not quite there and some other stuff. In this, the bank robbery scene specifically at the beginning, which again people remember from the theatrical cut, it's similar in the sense that it ends the same way, but there is so much that they added to that where she's just beating the shit out of people, throwing them around a room. I love that scene. That's one of the better. That's her warehouse scene, basically. If anybody remembers the Batman v Superman warehouse scene, that's basically her warehouse scene. And I like that he gave her that back. And she also does a really good job in the fight, too, in the end fight. She has a few good moments, especially at the very end of it. But I like that. I like that they made her feel powerful again. But now we also go down to another powerful superhero, which is Aquaman. Now, Aquaman in this, again, he doesn't tell as many jokes, which I'm fine with, even though Jason Momoa is adept at that, because we got more than enough joke telling in the Aquaman solo film, so that's fine. But his character is more of the reluctant hero. He doesn't necessarily want to be doing what he's doing, and he's kind of just ignoring his responsibilities to Atlanteans and to the world and stuff like that. And I like that kind of aspect about it. But at the same time, at the end, he does come through and he comes back and he kicks ass. Cham actually pointed out that one of the other things that kind of looked stupid was his contact lenses, and I didn't really care or mind at all, but I mean, I could see maybe that irking people because he does have these kind of white or very, very light yellow contact lenses on. So I like Jason Momoa. I think they did a good job with him. I think they expanded on him a little bit because they have some other scenes in him in Atlantis and stuff like that where they flesh him out a little bit more. And now we go down to another one, which is one that I hated in the theatrical cut, but I actually really liked in this, which is Ezra Miller's The Flash. Ezra Miller in the theatrical cut I thought was way too jokey and awkward and stuff like that. And but the thing is with the tone, he was portrayed almost as a goofball. And in this, he's less of a goofball and more just socially awkward. Which I think is probably a better interpretation of that character. He's not deliberately trying to be funny. He just doesn't necessarily know what to say. His words kind of they cascade off of his tongue. They're not really he's not really that fluent. He's not smooth and suave like Bruce Wayne. He's more of a stuttery kind of shy type, which I think is a good contrast to a lot of the other characters in this, because a lot of the other characters, except for Cyborg, they've all kind of been superheroes for a while in their own respective theaters. So it's interesting to have kind of I wouldn't say he's necessarily a newbie, but he's not quite a journeyman either. He's definitely somewhere in the middle. He has a little bit of experience. He knows how to use his powers, but outside of that, he's really not too experienced. But I did like that. They added a few scenes with him for character development, especially with his father in prison and stuff like that. I thought that was a good idea, and I like that. They do add a scene in here with Iris West, and I like the visuals they do for that scene. His running is not as stupid in this. His running in the theatrical cut looked pretty goofy, but in this, I think that they fixed that a bit so that it doesn't look so much like like him just flailing about, which originally I thought might have been the costume, but I guess not. And now we go down to the last one, which is, well, not the last one, second to last one, which is Cyborg. And Cyborg gets so much character development in this movie. The whole subplot with his father was cut out of the theatrical cut. That has been added back in. And I think that gives him a lot more development. It gives people a lot more of an insight into who he is. And we get to see how he became Cyborg. We get to see what happened to result in what he is now. Because by the time we meet him in the movie, he's already had the cybernetics and stuff installed on him. But we got a little bit of a glimpse of it in Batman v Superman, but basically they kind of killed him off in the theatrical cut. They said that, he was already dead by that time, but now we get to see his actual story arc, which I enjoyed his actual story arc. I think it was actually pretty good. And I like the fact that they need him at the end to kind of still separate the mother boxes, which is still a plot point, but again, that's fine. They also gave him that Iron Man mask stuff too when he flies around, which I thought was actually pretty cool. I liked that from the original trailers, and unfortunately they removed that for the theatrical film. Now, we go down to the last one, which is Henry Cavill, and he has the least screen time for obvious reasons. He was killed off at the end of Batman v Superman, but they do put him in the black suit, and the black suit looks awesome. I think that should have been the suit from the get-go, but for some reason they wanted shiny colors because Marvel for the theatrical cut, but I think that he looks much better in the black suit. And I liked the scenes that they added after his resurrection, because they add scenes where he's readjusting to being alive. He's readjusting to coming back from the dead, and I think that was mistaken in the theatrical, because they have that fight scene with the Justice League, which is similar, except they changed the ending of it, which makes it less stupid. Then he goes off to Smallville, to his family farm, and he is just like, oh, I remember now everything, and yada yada yada. It's like, no, now we have scenes where we get to see like he's adjusting, he's remembering and stuff like that, which I thought added to his character in a good way. And then of course he comes in at the end. Superman at the end of this movie gives no fucks. I'm not going to lie about that. That last fight scene in this movie with him and Steppenwolf is it's brutal. Like, Superman doesn't give a shit. He lasers off half of Steppenwolf's head, and it's just fucked, but it's awesome because you just want to see him die. You just want to see him die in the most horrible way possible by the end of this movie because of all the shit he does. But like I said, I liked all the mains. And ones that I didn't like from the theatrical cut, they actually got me to like, which again, I enjoyed. Now, as far as the story goes, the story is actually fairly straightforward. It's kind of like Infinity War in the sense that it's a heist movie, I guess, in that way. It's a movie that where Steppenwolf is looking for these three mother boxes again, exactly like the theatrical cut. But the other thing is they added to Steppenwolf's character too, because now he has this whole subplot with Apocalypse that we weren't really aware of in the theatrical cut. We get to see Darkseid, we get to see Desaad, we get to see shots of actual Apocalypse, the planet. We get there are some shots of Granny Goodness as well, but she doesn't have a speaking role. But we have that. We have a few other characters that pop up in this as well that I know were teased, but I wasn't expecting in certain fashions. But I'll let people watch the movie to kind of figure that one out. They've been announced, but I'm not going to spoil where they come up and what they do. The only thing is that Jared Leto does come in at the end of this movie. He does a little bit of a better job than he did in Suicide Squad. He's at least coherent in terms of the way that he talks and the way that he taunts Batman. And the only reason I like that scene is because Batman literally tells him, "I'm going to fucking kill you." But it's the Nightmare universe, so it doesn't necessarily matter. Or it doesn't necessarily matter to the whole Batman not killing people thing. But at the same time, the story elements to this are even though the main goal of the villain is the same, the story elements are very, very different when you surround it, and they padded a lot of it out and made him more intimidating, which I liked. Now to get to the actual end of the movie. Now, I'm not going to give away the ending, even though it's similar to the theatrical cut, but it's very, very different in how you get there. And the actual climax of it is something that is awesome and should have been in the theatrical cut instead of the stupid ending that we did get. So I'm happy about that. But at the same time, the epilogue, which is kind of the area where they toss in a lot of those Easter eggs and stuff from the advertising, I think that a lot of that may be because they're trying to get that sequel made, because this was originally part of a 3-part series. It was going to be part of a trilogy. And the second part of it was supposed to take place almost entirely in that Nightmare universe that Batman dreams about, where the Earth has been taken over by an evil version of Superman, and Apocalypse now has not Apocalypse, and Darkseid now rules over the planet. Which, again, we get some other shots of that at various points, too. They do a little bit of an explaining on what happened in the Nightmare universe and how that actually came to be, because that is an alternate DC universe that basically we get to see a few other extra characters at the end of this movie. You also get a few cameos. Joe Manganiello as Deathstroke, Jesse Eisenberg as Lex Luthor. So they do come back, but again, it's very limited. Same thing with Jared Leto's Joker. Amber Heard's Mira is in the movie a little bit more than she was in the Snyder Cut, but not by much. Same thing with Jim Gordon and a few of the other supporting characters. Diane Lane, Lois Lane, or Diane Lane and Amy Adams, who plays Lois Lane. So the supporting cast is good, but again, they focus mainly on the heroes, which is what I like. That those are the characters that should be developed during this movie, and they also develop the villain too, because that's the other thing, is that he's not just a 2-dimensional villain like he was in the theatrical cut. But like I said, I really enjoyed this movie. I give this movie a 9.5 out of 10. I really loved it. It's not, even like I said, even though it's 4 hours, it doesn't feel like 4 hours. It didn't feel like I sat there for 4 hours. It felt like I sat there for maybe 3. And I really, really, really enjoyed the way that they portrayed all the brutality in the film. The brutal violence of superhero fights is awesome when it's done correctly, and Zack Snyder knows how to do that correctly. But that's just kind of my opinion on the movie. I want to know what your opinion is. Have you guys watched it? Do you like it? Have you not watched it? Are you not interested? Are you excited to kind of see it? Have you seen it yet? Put your thoughts in the comments below, as usual. I like to read them. Hit the bell for notifications. Hit the like button. Subscribe, and remember, I live my life free of compromise. Do you?